Hi everyone, welcome back to For Real. Today I thought I'd talk to you about the COVID situation in Cambodia and also the developing situation with vaccines here. So there's been a bit of progress in both of those areas lately, so it's timely to do an update, I think. So with regards to the vaccines, there's currently two vaccines available in Cambodia. There's the Sinopharm, which is made in China and was donated to Cambodia by China. And there's also the AstraZeneca, but it's a version of the AstraZeneca that was made in India, and it's been provided to Cambodia by COVAX, which is a global vaccination alliance. They're a body that are working to provide equal access to COVID-19 vaccines around the world. So you might be wondering, how long have these things been available in Cambodia? The Sinopharm vaccination has been in Cambodia since the 8th of February, and the AstraZeneca arrived just recently on the 2nd of March. And that was a Tuesday, and on the Thursday, which is the 4th of March, Hun Sen received his first dose of that vaccination. He was going to have the Sinopharm, but then it was announced that that vaccination is not appropriate for people over the age of 59, so he had the AstraZeneca vaccination instead. Just recently, there's been an announcement that all foreigners in Cambodia could have the AstraZeneca vaccination for free. There was also another announcement that NGO staff, or INGO staff, which is international NGO staff, could have this vaccination for free as well. There's been a lot of reports and photographs in the news recently of the number of people that are lining up to get the vaccination in Phnom Penh, the AstraZeneca this is, and they have just suspended providing that vaccination at the moment until the 10th of March. So from the 7th until the 10th, they've stopped giving it because there's just been so much overcrowding. And I think when they open again on the 10th of March, they will probably have better systems in place to deal with the large numbers of people that are going to be coming through to get the vaccination. As far as I'm aware, the Sinopharm vaccinations are continuing as normal, and I believe that that is the vaccination that most of the Cambodian people will be having. Cambodia is currently in the grips of its largest community outbreak event of COVID, and it's been called the February 20 incident because that was the date when it was first recorded. So that particular event now has 477 cases of COVID, and the country's overall tally is 987. So the February 20 incident is still increasing in number, and every day we're seeing between sort of 20 and 35 people testing positive for the virus. And so we would anticipate that the overall tally is going to go over 1,000 quite soon, and also the February 20 event itself is going to be over 500 very soon too. So those are fairly significant numbers, and we're wondering if reaching those significant round numbers of 500 for that incident and 1,000 overall is going to mean that there'll be some different measures in place to cope with the spread of the virus. So yes, back to the February 20 incident. There are active cases of COVID in 5 provinces at the moment, so 5 out of Cambodia's 24 provinces, and I guess everyone's just watching the news and monitoring and just wondering how long it's going to be before there are cases in other places. And I guess that's what's driving the frenzied masses trying to get vaccinated at the moment, especially in Phnom Penh where the bulk of those cases have been detected. I can understand that people are trying everything they can to go and get the vaccine. And yeah, it looks like the hospitals and places where they're giving the vaccination are just not equipped to deal with the kind of numbers that they're seeing. So the older members of the Cambodian population, so those that are over 59, are able to access the AstraZeneca, and everybody else is going to take the Sinopharm, from what I imagine. So it's a bit of a watch and wait situation, and because the arrival of the vaccinations is coinciding with the biggest community outbreak that the country has seen, it's causing a bit of chaos in terms of people trying to access the vaccination and do what they can to stay safe. Understandable, we just need to remain calm and keep going with all the preventative measures that we've had going all along, and just hope that those will carry us through until such a time that we can access a vaccination, whichever one that might be. And that brings me to the last topic that I wanted to talk about today, and that is about some draft laws that have been proposed, and these are to do with tougher enforcement of COVID-19 rules in Cambodia. And this is very recent, and these are to do with improving the measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and other deadly and serious infectious diseases. So it has 6 chapters and 18 articles, but there hasn't been a lot of detail available, at least in English, about what those chapters and articles are actually going to contain. So we're waiting to hear a little bit more about that and wondering whether it's going to be something to do with the powers that the government has to lock down parts of Cambodia, particularly as we're heading to those larger numbers. So it remains to be seen what's actually going to come from those draft laws, but it does look as though they're going to be pushed through quite quickly. I'll just give you a couple of other random little news updates to do with COVID as well while we're here. So the guy that was bribed, so the one that let the women out of quarantine that started this February 20 incident, he is now in custody after he completed his 14 days of quarantine, because obviously he was exposed to the woman that bribed him, and so he's completed his quarantine and he's now under arrest and waiting for trial and sentencing, I guess, to find out what his fate is going to be. Not really a laughing matter, because his actions, and hers as well, in bribing him, because it's an unequal balance of power there, has put a lot of people in danger. Also, recently, a man in Sihanoukville was fined $500 for violating quarantine measures, and this is good to see because it shows that people are starting to take seriously, or the government is starting to take seriously, what violating quarantine can actually do in the community and the effect that it can have. So finding someone $500 is a pretty big amount here, and it shows that the government is serious, and people will probably think twice about taking those kinds of risks in future when they know that a fine of that size might be visited upon them once they're discovered. Also in the news recently, there was an update about the number of people that are crossing the border from Thailand into Cambodia, which is still loads and loads of people, but I guess the reporting on that has kind of taken a back seat to the February 20 incident. But I read something today that said that because the threat in Thailand, where they've been coming from, has decreased, therefore it's less likely that these people that are crossing the border are infected with COVID or have been exposed to it. Then instead of being held in quarantine centres at the border, they're going to be allowed to go to their homes and complete their quarantine there. So we're yet to see what the impact of that is going to be, but it may or may not be a sensible decision. Just remains to be seen how far these people go back to their homelands, and what kind of contact tracing is going to be put in place in the event that there is some kind of outbreak from somebody who's come back across the border recently. Of the nearly 500 cases that have been reported in the February 20 incident, about 100 of those have been found in Sihanoukville, and the province of Sihanoukville is virtually locked down, and the only way that you can get to or from Sihanoukville is if you are importing or exporting goods. So people that work at the port and processing those sorts of things are still allowed to go in and out, but tourists and general public are not allowed to cross that provincial border. There are a lot of hotels and different places. There's a casino, I think, that's been shut down there. There are a lot of people in quarantine, and I think the number of places that have had people who are positive visiting is quite large there. So Sihanoukville's in a pretty bad way, and they're feeling this quite badly, I think. Everybody's wondering what's going to happen for Khmer New Year, as it's coming up in April, and that is traditionally a time where a lot of people travel around back to their homelands and to different places to spend time with family, and obviously in the middle of an outbreak, that's definitely not what you want. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of legislation is around those holidays, because remember last year, Khmer New Year was actually postponed and we didn't get to celebrate it or have those holidays until quite late in the year. So what happened last time was that the public holidays were cancelled and everyone just worked as normal, and then the public holidays plus an extra one for the inconvenience of having them moved were given at a later stage. So maybe that approach will be taken again this year, but nothing's been announced about it so far. So that's about all I've got for this update. I hope it wasn't too boring for you, and if you found it interesting or at least a little bit informative, you might want to have a look at some of our other videos because they're generally a bit more exciting than just news reports. So thanks so much for watching. Please take a look at all the links down below in our description. There's links to our social media, links to other people that we follow on YouTube, links to people that are making YouTube content here in Cambodia. And it'd be great if you could support and follow them as well. I know a lot of our followers originally came from Dave and other people, so if you could, return the favour and go back and follow them if you came to us first, that would be awesome. Thanks. Bye.